Hi, everybody. Will here with this week's interview chair. This week we have the legend himself, Mr. Bruce Schultz. So sit down and relax and listen to Bruce the next hour. Hi, everybody. Today we have a special treat at the interview chair. We have legend Mr. Bruce Schultz. How are you, Bruce?
I'm very good. I don't know if I'm a legend or not, but...
Well, I think you're a legend. You're always a legend to me, so...
Well, thank you. Thank you.
How's Tara?
Tara's doing great.
Excellent.
Absolutely wonderful, and she's at the kennel right now. So the two kennels keep her busy and everything.
I'm sure. I can't imagine anymore. Since I retired, I only have 4 dogs here, and it's sometimes that seems like that's enough. I can't imagine having 30 or 40 back in the day. So,
Absolutely, yeah.
All right, let's get started. How old were you, Bruce, and how did you get involved in the sport of dogs?
Oh my God, it was probably. I lived in Minnesota, I grew up in Minnesota, and I always had a dog back there. Okay. And in 1970 or something like that, 70 or 71, I moved to Phoenix. And I always wanted to have an Irish setter. I had a German Short-Hair Pointer, and I had a Weimaraner, and we had beagles. We grew up with beagles. And, in Minnesota, it was, we always, my brothers and I always either hunted or fished growing up. I played baseball and basketball and all that kind of stuff. We always hunted and fished and all that. And I used to dream about having an Irish setter. So when I moved to Phoenix, I looked in the paper and all that kind of stuff and trying to find an Irish setter puppy for sale and all that kind of stuff. Well, I finally found one. And the lady I found for one was in obedience. And she was training her dogs for obedience and all that kind of stuff. And it ended up to they were all purebred dogs and everything else. And she went to the shows and showed in obedience at the shows. And all these dogs were from Joyce Nielsen, Thundering Kennels. And so I bought one from them, or from her, and started working in obedience and all that kind of stuff, and then started going to the shows and obedience and everything. And then I bought another one from Candy Kennels, San Diego. So, and then I had 2 of them. So, I was pretty much hooked on Irish setters and everything. And the Irish setter dog went with me everywhere. He was my buddy. Drove next to me in my pickup and all that kind of stuff. No matter wherever I went, he went with me. So he actually killed my gardener and left the gate open, and he got out and got killed and run over by a car. So I bought another one and started working obedience with it. Then I had 2 bitches. So that's how I got started, basically. I started going to shows and showing obedience, and then started watching the confirmation classes, and I'm going, wow, this is pretty interesting. Maybe I'll start doing this, everything else, and started doing that. And pretty soon...
How old were you, Bruce?
Let me see, that was in 1970, so I was 70 or 21.
21, okay.
Yeah. So that gives my date now, my birth date away, huh?
Look how sneaky we are.
Yeah, so I was 21 when I did that. And I've had dogs ever since, Started going to shows and everything else. And pretty soon people would ask me, hey, can you show my dog for me? and started from there.
Wow.
Just that's how I got started. Then I went to work for. I used to drive back and forth from Phoenix every weekend, and went to work for Patty Grant, and worked for her on the weekends. Drove back, opened the office, and everything else. I can never remember. I always remember this. I would close the gates Friday afternoon, late Friday afternoon. Drive to LA, no matter what was where the shows were. Drive back Sunday night, and enough time to get home, and basically go to the office and open the gates. So that was my love for the dog shows. I got hooked. Let me tell you.
I bet.
So,
yeah. I think about those days when even when I was a kid, my dad would take me to the shows, but he would get us there for the Friday show, and he'd have to work again Monday, so he'd show all weekend and drive all the way. And I think about it now, I think, oh God, I could never do that.
Oh yeah,
beat.
Yeah. So basically, I was working 7 days a week.
Yeah,
for a long, long time. So, and that went on for 10 years, something like that, 10, 12 years. And finally, I gave it up and my business up and all that kind of stuff because I had a love for dogs. And it was a steady income instead of the business I was in was up and down, depending on the construction business. So, and at that time, the construction business took a dump and everything else, but I was still making money showing dogs.
Sure, yeah.
So I started showing dogs, and that's where I ended up. So.
And so you went out on your own basically then and just became a professional handler.
Yeah.
So when did you meet Gretchen?
I met Gretchen probably, I'm trying to remember the date and all that kind of stuff, but it was in Yuma, Arizona when I met Gretchen.
You had quite a prominent dog in the 80s, the Irish Setter Rufus. Were you already on your own? You were on your own then, that obviously by then. Yeah.
So, Rufus was a great setter. I mean, he was quite a dog. I mean, he just actually I won. That was the first breed that I won at the garden was with Rufus. And, I was just a youngster basically at the time.
I can still see the picture.
Yeah, so can I. I wonder how the hell I did it, but for some reason the judge liked him. So
Rufus, for anybody who doesn't know, was Kimberlins O'Kelly of Topple, bred by Claire Andrews. He holds a special place in my heart because he was the sire of my first big winning dog. So that's why I started following you, because of Rufus.
Yeah, it was a great time. Sam and Barbara Topless were the owners of Rufus, and they were great people. They loved that dog, and they went everywhere that he went. So we had a great time.
Yeah. How long did you show Rufus for? Do you remember?
I think it was 2.5 years.
Yeah. Now, was the group third of the garden? Was that the culmination of his career, or was that the end of his career, or was that the beginning of his career?
That was pretty much the beginning of his career.
Well, that's a nice way to start then.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So, because he was basically a no-one to the judges going into the garden, and we couldn't believe it. He had done some winning on the West Coast and everything, but he had the best in show and all that kind of stuff, but nothing big until after the garden. So, and he was the first dog that I won a best in show on, all breed best in show on. So he was basically the start of my career of winning best in shows.
I can still see him. I can still see the picture. We had this talk earlier. I'm pretty sure it was Alvin Maurer who gave you the breed of the garden, but that's who I see in my head. But I could be wrong.
Yeah, and all the biggies were there. I mean, shit, you were there, and all the big time Irish setter people from the East were there, and I don't know if I was just an out,
but
I
won. Elvin judged that way.
So anyway, there you go.
That was pretty good. What was after Rufus? Who was after Rufus?
Oh my God, there were a lot of dogs after Rufus. After Rufus, after getting the first Best in Show, I would always complain about not getting a Best in Show and not getting a Best in Show. And
I've never heard you complain ever.
No. In the back of my mind, and after Rufus got that Best in Show, then the Best in Shows started to come in pretty easy, and I had a lot of dogs that went Best in Show, and one of the main dogs that I went Best in Show with and everything else was the German Shorthair Pointer, Britannia.
Yeah.
And she won 50 Best in Shows and 150 Group 1s in 2 years. And
you won the Group of the Garden.
Yeah, I won the Group of the Garden, 2 back-to-back groups.
Okay.
Yeah. And after that was the English Setter, the Silk Teddy. And these were all in the 80s. So, and the Silk Teddy came right after the Shorthair, and I can't believe that. And then I put 150 and 150 are 150 groups and 50 Best in Shows on her. I mean, right after the Shorthair. So that was great.
That doesn't usually happen. So,
plus all the other dogs that I had, I had Borzois and a number of other breeds of bloodhounds and everything else that had Best in Shows in there too. So, but those were the 2 dogs that I won a lot of Best in Shows on.
Yeah. Good time, Silk Teddy. I remember her for sure. It was exciting watching her show. I love Britannia too, but I was a setter guy, so.
Yeah, I loved them both, and both of them were wonderful, show bitches and everything else, and that's probably why I act to show bitches now. Mm-hmm. Give me a bitch in a day, and I'll show them, a good one.
Yeah. I love showing bitches as well. So after Teddy, I want to know it all, Bruce. So keep telling me what happened after the Silk Teddy bitch.
Well, after Teddy, it's kind of. I won a lot of Best in Shows on different dogs and everything, and top in the breed, top in the group, and number 1 in their breeds, all breed, and everything else. So, I had a good Borzois from Canada that I did a lot of winning with. I had a lot of border collies that I did a lot of winning with, and I had an Irish setter that I showed right after the Silk Teddy.
Oh,
her name was Rosie.
I remember Rosie.
And she was a beautiful bitch too. Mm-hmm. But the judges had given me so much with the Shorthair and with the English setter. And then she came in right after them, and I didn't win as much with her that she should have won a lot more, I thought.
Yeah, you're probably right. Yeah. It happens, right? And I think I remember showing this Beagle dog, and he won a bunch of groups, and I couldn't win Best in Shows on him. And then the next dog I showed won a bunch of Best in Shows. I'm not sure he was as good as the first one. But,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think a lot of times, the judges, if they give you so many Best in Shows and all the and groups and all that kind of stuff, a lot of the judges said, well, he's won a lot in the last 6 years or whatever, 5 years. I'm going to give it to someone else or whatever. So, that happens a lot, I think.
Yeah, and it all comes down to timing. Sometimes really good dogs get overlooked because of bad timing. So.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely, yeah.
Another dog that comes to my mind is Alistair. When I think of him, that was a hell of a dog.
Oh, that was a great Irish setter. I mean, he was a beautiful, beautiful Irish setter. And he didn't get what he deserved.
Oh, no way. Yeah, you're right.
I think he was so beautiful that the judges didn't know what to do with him. Because, just to look at him, He had a beautiful, beautiful head on him. And he was a bigger dog. And maybe a lot of judges thought he was too big.
He was no, yeah, no.
But
So,
he was in standard and everything else. And, at that time I was showing other dogs that I was getting best in shows on and everything else. And, the judges probably just thought, well, he's a little big and all that kind of stuff. I won groups on him and everything, but he never got what he deserved.
he won the national because I was there. Maxine Travelda's Once Upon a Time, just in case people knew Alice. Yeah. He was a picture. There's no question.
Yeah. And I don't think a lot of people bred to him for some reason. But boy, he was a beautiful dog.
Yeah, he sure was. I can still see him.
He was probably the most beautiful Irish setter that I showed.
Yeah.
I mean, he was beautiful.
Give you goosebumps thinking about him.
No kidding.
Yeah.
So,
and that was early '90s, wasn't it? Because I was showing it up. I remember I was in the ring with you at the national that year. So
yeah,
that was exciting.
It was wonderful. Yeah.
Okay.
So, but I never won the breed at the Garden with him.
No.
Which is too bad.
Oh, for sure. I have a question for you, though. Mentors. Who would you consider your mentors in this sport? Because you kind of came up in an unorthodox way for a handler, but I'm sure there was so much influence that made you who you are. So
yeah. Well, I'll tell you, right? Bob and Patty Grant, they weren't known to be, great people and everything else, but they were very, very good mentors to me. Patty could show a dog beautifully. And I don't know if you remember Bob and Patty Grant.
No, I don't.
And they showed some Gordon setters, they showed Irish setters and English setters and all that. Patty Grant could put together a dog and make that dog look absolutely beautiful. Even though he was a mediocre dog. After she got through with it, it looked beautiful. And Bob was the trimmer. He did the trimmer, and between the two of them, basically they taught me how to handle, how to trim, and all that kind of stuff. They were hard people to work with because, they were pretty rough and all that kind of stuff. Not with the dogs or anything like that, but they made you listen to them and all that. So those two were my mentors.
Okay.
I never worked for any other handler but them.
But there's obviously there was outside mentors too that they don't even know they're your mentors. I think about even George. I never really worked for George, but he was so instrumental in how I became me.
Oh, sure, absolutely. I'd go around and watch in different rings and watch these people and the handlers and all that kind of stuff. I would show their dogs and all that kind of stuff. And you did a beautiful job with your dogs. Absolutely beautiful. I wanted to be like you.
I got a funny story I'm going to tell. Do you remember I flew out there for, I think it was English Center National, I think. And I had my assistant with me, Yvonne, who you know.
Yeah.
Yvonne, and she was so infatuated with you. We all went out to dinner, you and I think Gretchen and Yvonne, and someone took a picture. I don't know who took a picture, but someone took a picture. So I'm at Yvonne's place, and she was my assistant. I'm having dinner or something at Yvonne, and there's a picture on the refrigerator, and it's just you and her having dinner. She had us two taken out of the picture. I'm like, how did you do that?
She was a great gal. Yeah, she was a great gal.
Oh, we used to have some fun with her, though, teasing her about you.
Yeah. There's a lot of, there's so much to remember in my career that a lot of times I forget about all the things that happened in my career because it was so much.
Well, for sure.
And I was very, very privileged to be able to get to know a lot of people that I would have never known other than being in the dog show business.
Yeah.
And from all over the world. And one of the people that I watched and all that kind of stuff and was Jimmy Moses. With the German Shepherd and all that kind of stuff. And just watching him, what he did with these dogs, it was kind of unbelievable. And he'd bring one right after the other, and some of them were not different than others. And at that time, I was competing against him with the Border Collies. And I think 3 or 4 years in a row, I went second to him in the group with, I think, 2 or 3 different German Shepherds. And they all looked different. And I'll never forget it. One of them he had, I go, how the hell do you win with that dog? Oh, he's a nice dog. I go, really, Jim? He beat me in the group at the Garden. So
he's amazing, no question.
He has to be one of my mentors. Just watching him and doing things, and his ability to do it over and over and over and over and over again. So
just the way he connects with the dogs, it's unbelievable. So
yeah, and to be able to do it over and over and over, and like he did. I mean, he had to have something going for him.
Yeah.
And just like I said, I did so much winning with a couple dogs. The judges pushed me off a little bit of the winning and all that, but it never happened to him. So there you go.
For sure. But I always, whenever he used to come up here every summer before the Shepherd National, he'd show up for a few weekends in a row, and it was just fun watching him. I remember him taking Captain out and running Captain around a soccer field one time, and it was just he said, watch this, and he didn't run it; he made someone run it around.
Yeah,
and it was just incredible. And then he explained what he was doing, and you're right, he's an incredible mentor to a lot of us. So
yeah.
Are there any dogs out there besides your own that you showed that you looked upon that you have become stamps in your head of that breed that you wish you could have been maybe a part of, or you would have liked to have shown at some point, or just made a stamp on you, made an impression on you?
Yeah. One of the dogs that I really, really thought that I would like to show was Pepsi.
Oh, yeah.
Chris and I were very, very good friends because we competed against each other all the time and all the time and all the time. And he'd win some, I'd win some. And we'd end up going to the same shows together back east and all that good stuff. And we spent a lot of time together. And, at one time, I'd go, my God, I wish I could show that dog. Just once.
Yeah.
Just want to show that dog. So, yeah,
I would get you and his brother mixed up. He was the challenger, right? Kibik's the challenger, and the other one was the front runner, I think.
Front runner, yeah.
Yeah.
Pepsi was the first one he did a lot of winning with.
Yeah.
I think Pepsi had a great attitude. He'd walk in the ring, here I am, and, screw everyone else, So
it goes a long way.
He was one of my heart dogs. So.
For sure. What about advice? Do you have any advice for young handlers?
I was just thinking about that.
Mm-hmm.
And the first thing that comes to my mind is, you've got to plan for the future. I mean, the way things are right now, you can have a lot of money in your pocket, but it's not going to last forever.
Right.
So you've got to have some kind of a plan, invest your money, put it away, and so you'll have something when you get older and you can't run around anymore. And believe me, it comes real fast, and you think you've got the rolled by the horns and all that kind of stuff, and pretty soon you're 65, 70 or whatever, and you go, holy shit, it's hard for me to run around again. And you've got to do something. You have to have something planned on the side, whether you do a bunch of investments in real estate or whatever, whether you buy a kennel, you've got a plan for the future.
That's good advice. Any judging aspirations, Bruce?
Well, I judged in foreign countries a lot, and I enjoyed it a lot. And with Tara still showing and everything else, she loves the show. It's going to be it would be hard for me to have her quit just so I could go show.
Right.
And, they make it hard for you. And right now it's not bad because they'll give you a group if you're invited.
Mm-hmm.
But before, they make it very hard for you because you had to go through all these groups all over again. I mean, if you're a handler, you spend all your life learning about dogs and learning about how to judge dogs, basically the anatomy of the dog and all that kind of stuff. And then the AKC wants you to start all over again. And it's hard being 65, 70 years old to start over with. Why do I want to start all over when we've got 2 boarding kennels right now and they're doing very well? Why should I take all my time and go through all these things and the seminars and all that kind of stuff and pay money to do something that I've done my whole life?
Yeah. Well, that's exactly how that's what it comes down to. Now they're doing. AKC has done a great job in education and whatnot, and this new program is a great idea. But prior to that, it was difficult, especially. I know they wanted to make it fair, but life's not fair, Bruce. There are some people that are better than others in certain aspects in this world, and it's just natural. Like I'm not a good hockey player. I wish I shouldn't be allowed to, or Bobby Orr shouldn't have to start where I start because he is magic and I'm just an average hockey player, right?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. AKC knows what handlers are good handlers and what handlers know good dogs, and whether or not they can judge dogs. And that's why Lynn Brumby, he knew all the handlers. He knew who was going to be good.
Right.
He knew who was bad. And the good ones that he thought would make good judges, he put through. But it wasn't that way anymore. So,
no. It's getting closer again with this new program, I think, but it's, you're right. I think we've missed out on a lot of people that could have really made an impact on our sport. So.
Oh, absolutely. I know people that were handling and all that kind of stuff. And once they quit, they go, why do I want to do that? When they don't trust you to be a good judge. They don't think you're a good judge and not able to do it. So they make you start all over again. So, that's why a lot of the handlers didn't go on with it.
Yeah, and we've lost out on a lot of amazing breeders as well that could have been just amazing judges. They don't want to start. They don't think they should. And I agree with them. They shouldn't have to go down and start again like that because they've already given their whole life to it. They know their stuff.
Yeah, and the good breeders are the same thing that I said before. AKC should know who the good breeders are, and whether it's a Cocker Spaniel or anything like that, they should be able to pick up a good dog, no matter what breed it is, with some education and everything else. So there's got to be a system that they can go to that says, okay, we're going to do this with you, and meanwhile you've got to do a little bit of education work and all that kind of stuff, and to go with it. I agree with that.
Oh, there's no question. You need the education. Like, I find myself, even on this past weekend, I was watching a class, and there was such indifference in the class. It made me go back to the standard and check something. So when I was outside the ring watching, so
yeah. But that's basically why I didn't go into judging, because Tara was still showing and everything, and she loves the sport.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to ask her just to stop.
Does she have aspirations to judge? You ever asked her that?
I don't know. Maybe later.
He'd be a great judge as well. So.
Yeah. So, but she's real busy too right now. I mean, she takes care of this kennels and all that kind of stuff, and she's doing a wonderful job of it. And she had 3 jobs up until just recently. She cut back a little bit on the showing and all that kind of stuff because she was so busy with the kennels. And then she would go show, and it was like me all over again, working 7 days a week.
Yeah, you just can't. You can't.
And you can only do that for so long.
Right.
So you've got to sit down and say, well, what's going to benefit me at the most in the long run? And that's why we bought the kennels, because we know in the long run, they're going to be there when we need an income and everything else. And like, I don't even show anymore because I'm 73 years old, and my body aches and everything else. And she's so good at it; she does a wonderful job at it. I don't have to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So
I can still. I wasn't too that long ago. You're kicking my ass out there.
Well, not always. You kick my ass a lot too. And see, these are the things that we remember. I mean, I loved going to the shows to see you and a number of others like Elliot Moore and all the back east, because we had fun together. We could always win, lose, or draw or whatever, and afterwards we were still friends.
Oh yeah,
and that's what it's all about. And a lot of the people now are so cutthroat that if they don't win, I mean, they get all pissy and everything else, and pissed off at the judge, pissed off at the handler, and that's wrong. They've got to be a sportsman. This is a sport where you're going to win and you're going to lose. And if you can't lose, get the hell out.
Well, that was one thing that always is said about you, what a sportsman you are. I was talking to Wayne. I was telling Wayne this interview was coming up, and he said to give you his best. He was telling a story about you. I guess you came to the house one time, and he says he has this amazing ability that all the dogs loved him. Even dogs that Wayne had issues with trying to show, you could just befriend it and start showing it. He said you were always a gentleman and always a sport. And that's just the way it was. And I don't think I've ever seen you angry.
Oh, I've been angry.
Oh, I'm sure you have, but I've never witnessed it. I can't think in my mind where I've ever seen you angry. So.
Yeah, I had good upbringing and everything else. My parents, taught me to be a humble person and everything else. And if you don't do something, that like win or whatever, it's not the end of the world.
That's right.
Hey, there's tomorrow.
Lots of dog shows.
And a lot of the handlers don't realize that, and they're out to beat you no matter what.
Yeah.
They'll sell their mother to get a win. I know. I
hate to say that, but it's true.
Yeah. And especially on the East Coast or West Coast, it might not be as bad on the coast on the West Coast, but it's just, oh my God, if you don't win, I mean, it's the end of the world.
It ruins your week, right? I always used to make fun of. I didn't make fun of them. I used to mock them sometimes. The ones that if they lost on Sunday, it just ruined their week. And then that you can't be like that, that way.
Yeah, and that's probably why being a good sport and all that kind of stuff. And it was probably why I had so much fun at the shows when we did it and everything else, and had good dogs. And I loved doing it. I loved the dogs. I loved the people that I showed for. I had a lot of really, really good clients, and they stayed with me for years. Some of them are still with us.
Yeah.
That I've shown for 40 years.
That's a statement in itself. Like I was talking to a young handler about that just the other day. If I had, just like you, I had clients that were with me my entire career, and that shows that you've connected.
Yeah, and then you get these handlers that go out there, and they must be doing something wrong because they'll show one winning dog for someone, and then that's it. Then they move on to another person to show another one. Well, what happened to the person that you won with? Where are they? Why didn't they stick with you and all that kind of stuff? There had to be a reason for it. So, and if you treat your clients good, they're going to treat you good. And if they get good dogs, they'll try to get good dogs because they'll listen to you and everything else. And, there might be an interim where they don't have a dog or whatever, and then the handlers forget about them. Well,
you can't do that, yeah.
They'll never come back.
Right.
They'll find someone else. So, that's my advice to the handlers coming up.
No, I agree. It's like a team, and you want to have longevity with that team. You know each other, you trust each other, and just makes the whole process much more enjoyable. You know what to expect from each side.
Yeah, and there's so many young handlers that maybe came out of juniors or whatever that never worked for a handler and don't even know how to take care of a dog.
Oh, animal husbandry is a lost art.
That's the first thing I taught everyone.
Yeah.
I said, hey, first you pick up poop and you learn how to take care of the dogs, and you watch the dogs, you feed the dogs and everything else. And then you can start maybe grooming a little bit or whatever, getting the dogs ready. And you're not going to walk in the ring right away and start showing dogs.
Yeah.
I mean, if you think you're going to do that, don't even bother start working. So you've got to work at it no matter what. And
when you hear about I do a lot of these interviews, and the overall thing is you'll find these people worked for their handlers for quite a long time. Like you worked for almost 10 years before you decided to go on your own. And that's unheard of now. It's unheard of. They come into junior handling, and I hate to say it, they hang up their shingle and away they go.
Plus having another job. So anyway.
And then I'm not saying there's a lot of really good young handlers, but there's some that try to fast track. It's not going to work.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Any other advice? What about, we sort of talked about you wanting to be your judging aspirations, on your thoughts on judging. Even though you're not going to go down that avenue, what about advice? If I were to come to you, Bruce, and say, I'm going to be a judge, Bruce, what do you think I should do? What advice would you give me?
Well, probably go with your heart. You're a good enough person to go in there and make a decision of what dog you want to put up. And it might be shown by a friend that you had or whatever. It might be shown by someone that you don't like.
Yeah.
And you go in there and put up the dog that you want to put up and study the breeds and everything else before you go judging. And get to know the breeds. Talk to the handlers and the breeders that are very successful in that breed you want to judge. So that's what I want to advise.
That is true. When you think about it, it's if you stand back and use common sense looking at our sport, if you want to be successful, you just look and see who's been successful and talk with them or emulate them and find out what the recipe is or what they've done. Yeah, I mean, it's just a lot of hard work, but obviously they're doing something right.
Yeah. That's better than going to the seminars, I think, where a lot of times they have people that really don't know the breed that they're representing and trying to teach the judges.
Yeah.
And, I've had a lot of people and everything else that I know and all that kind of stuff that really don't know the breed that they're judging. They just go through the motions and that's it. So, and you can tell which judges they are.
Oh, yes, no question. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like in the old system, at least up here in Canada, where it was back in the day, you were asked to judge. Like it didn't take you. Like even up here, we have to start at the beginning and crawl up. But back in the day when the CKC assigned, like I always go back to Bob Waters when he first applied to judge. There's somebody in the CKC office didn't really know who he was, and they sent him back a note saying he could judge Dobermans. But then luckily somebody else in the office saw his application and stamped him all breed, and he was all breed like boom in Canada. And there was no question he was one of our best judges of all time.
Yeah.
But I think that was a common sense way of doing it, because if he ended up not being as good as they all thought he was going to be, he wouldn't have got the assignments back then. So
yeah,
that's just
I loved it every time he came down here because I would show to him any time in the day.
For sure.
Whether you win or lose, Bob Waters was a good judge.
Yeah, and you could ask him anything, and he'd tell you why he chose Bruce's dog over my dog. He'd tell you.
And you should be able to do that.
Yep, for sure.
So
I have one more question for you before I let you go. I don't want to keep you all day. If you were to meet the 20-year-old Bruce Schultz now, is there any advice you'd give him?
Yeah, probably.
Are you going to tell us?
Don't run so long. I was still running when I was 70 years old.
Oh, wow.
And, I had a great career.
You did.
I had a wonderful career. I can't, say anything bad about it. I had a great career with my clients, with the dogs that I showed, everything about it and everything. I think that I waited too long to start investing in all that kind of stuff. I've been very, very lucky because we bought the 2 kennels and worked very hard on them and everything else. And it paid off but in my earlier years, I didn't put enough money away thinking that, there's a lot of time to put money away and all that kind of stuff. But hey, start putting it away right away.
Yeah. And
start investing it. And that's what I would do different with my career. Start investing money for the future.
That's good advice, because it's amazing, isn't it, notoriously how handlers are bad at their money management.
Yeah.
Because they're going to have that money forever. It all comes in and you think, I'm not going to worry about that. I have all the money. If I could just make more too. So
yeah,
it's not the way it works in the long run. So
yeah. So that's my advice. Be good. Yeah. Be good to your clients. Be good to your dogs. Take care of your dogs. So
that's good. And I appreciate your time, Bruce.
Yeah. And be a sportsman.
Yeah, it's true. It takes you. It just makes life so much easier if you are a sportsman. So, but it does. You're not pining about things, and nothing gets to you as much, and because you have the ability to shake it off and go on to the next one. So.
Yeah. One of the things that Tara asked me, once in a while, how did you do this so long and still be a gentleman and all that kind of stuff? Because there's so many people that are jerks and try to bully you and everything else. And, you just have to let them go, think about yourself and everything else and what you're going to do and go from there. So
It's true.
Makes a happier life for you.
Oh, I can't agree more. You have to live life that way, or else you're just going to be fighting inside all the time. So
yeah, I've been very fortunate with Tara. She's a wonderful lady, and she's intelligent. She's a hard worker, and she loves the sport. So I've been very, very lucky to have her. So, and she takes care of me.
Perfect. Well, thanks, Bruce, and I'll see you down the road somewhere, I'm sure. So.
Oh, thank you, Will, and hope to see you soon. And I'm missing you. So.
Oh, thank you. Talk soon.
I love watching you with the setter.
Thanks. I always loved watching you with a setter. So there you go.
Yeah.
All right, Bruce.
Okay. Hey, thanks, Will.
Thank you. Well, thanks, Bruce. That was a great interview. It was great catching up. It seems like I haven't seen you in forever. If you like what we're doing here, make sure you press the like, share, and subscribe button. If you want to get a hold of me, get a hold of me at dogshowtips@gmail.com. Or if you just want to find out what's happening in Will's world, go to willalexander.net. And don't forget about the podcast with Wayne Kavanaugh and myself, the Dog Show Drive every Thursday. Until then, take care, guys.